Welcome to UNCAGED, a show that celebrates thought leadership from today's top business leaders. The program provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. Today we have Melih Oztalay on the show. Hey, Melih, how are you?
Hi, man. How you doing? Glad to be on the show.
Really well. I come from a very, very heavy marketing background myself, so I'm very, very excited to talk to Melih. Melih is the CEO of Smart Finds Marketing, and he's doing some really interesting work in how to make some of the performance-based marketing that we do for websites more efficient and more effective. And we'll definitely get more into that in a second. But before we get there, Melih, tell us a little bit about yourself and your career today.
It's kind of an interesting career because our company is actually 34 years old. We've been in marketing and advertising for a long time. In 1994, I actually started off our internet group. And so it's been a very long ride, but the 1990s was a lot of fun. It was like the wild, wild west of the internet back in those days. And then during the 1990s, we had three different groups. We had our ISP group, we had our traditional, marketing, advertising, and then we had our digital marketing, which kind of evolved later in the 1990s. When we got to 2000, we sold off our ISP group, and then by the time we got to 2004, we were 100% digital at that point. There was way too much money going into the internet, very few little budgets that were still being spent on traditional media, and there was a dime a dozen of competitors at that point for a smaller and smaller pie of money. And so we went 100% digital in 2004, which happens to be the same year that Google went public. Pretty much since then, haven't looked back. I've been an industry author, speaker, radio shows, video casts, podcasts, call me up as a subject matter expert. That's been going on since for about the last 11 years. It's been, we have an interesting scenario, in the digital marketing industry. And over the time, I've kind of formulated an interesting topic, which is my 4 A's of digital marketing. And the 4 A's.
Let's definitely get into the story around Smart Finds and what you guys are working on now. And it sounds like you guys have a model. So the 4 A's, and I'd love to hear more about this work you're doing to make websites more efficient and effective. So tell me more about the 4 A's.
So the 4 A's: anticipate change, accept change, which tends to be the hardest part, adapt to the changes, and adopt the changes. And we live in a very fluid environment when it comes to digital marketing. If you don't accept the changes early on, which I run into a lot of clients in that scenario where they say, they fret about the changes that are going on because it either means they lost money on investments prior to the change, or it means that they have to add budget. And in either case, sometimes what ends up happening is they fret about it. And while they're fretting, which could sometimes take 1, 2, 3 months, the competitor is moving forward. My suggestion is adapt to these changes quickly, move on, don't think about it. It's a changing environment. And you're going to have to pivot. There's no question. It's an ongoing process. And there is no endpoint. That's the other part of this whole process. There is no endpoint. So I try to get this across to a lot of clients, and especially after about 34 years and now going on to 27 years in digital, you learn a lot, you gain experiences and knowledge, and that's essentially one of the main things I've come away with.
Yeah, I like it. I like the idea of accepting it and moving forward. So that's excellent. So tell me more about this new work that you guys are doing. I don't want to botch the name of it, but it seemed like something that you're building on the service.
Yeah, so conversion rate optimization is something that we've been doing for a long time. And it wasn't necessarily called that way back when, but certainly has evolved into a mature science, so to speak, or an effective science. In the last 2 years, we've been developing a professional marketing process around conversion rate optimization, or what we call CRO. And the tools have evolved, the tools have improved. The tools are, include artificial intelligence. You're using A/B testing tools that are more efficient now than they were in years gone by. And analytics at the end of the day, which we use heavily when it comes to CRO program, has also changed and evolved into providing more data. At least you have the ability of mixing and matching the data in a way that works. And so the concept of CRO is this: how do you convert existing website traffic into a lead or a sale? Meaning that let's stop the marketing budget, let's stop driving traffic to the website until we know the website is effective. If the website can't do its job, then why do you want to spend more money trying to drive more traffic? Because we've come across a lot of projects in which the concept is let's just drive more traffic. It's a numbers game type of a thing. Well, that goes up to a certain point, because now you're wasting 80% of your money when perhaps it could be let's say 50-60% effective instead of just being 20% effective. And so conversion rate optimization, it's not that it's new as much as it's been formed into a science, and we have the necessary tools to get the job done.
Yeah, I would say it's probably in kind of like an omni-commerce world. It's become much more complex in how we look at the variables and the opportunities. I'm a big believer in what the focus is on conversion rate optimization. I've seen, back in my advertising days, simple changes to a website of reducing the number of choices that a prospect can consider when they land there had such incredible improvements on performance for some of my clients over the years that I'm a big believer. So it can be very, very effective. And strangely enough, you're absolutely right. Almost all the focus always falls on just spending more, getting that marketing budget. And nobody seems to want to get into the nitty gritty of conversion. But that's excellent.
Let's face it, the nitty gritty is time consuming, it's labor intensive. I mean, regardless of how many tools you have, at the end of the day, the human being has to interpret the results, the analytics, the analysis, and decide what needs to change. So what you're changing are calls to actions, the layouts, the colors, what is going to grab people's attention so that you're pointing them in the right direction within your website. And so, yes, I agree with you. That's not necessarily as sexy as let's just spend more money and drive more traffic. And besides that, spending more money and driving more traffic is easier.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me a little bit more on what you guys are seeing. I mean, you have lived the digital revolution, and now we're kind of, I'd say, in the digital evolutionary phase, or where we're adding more machine learning elements and dealing with the complexity of a more sophisticated, performance focused omni-commerce world. I mean, what are you seeing now as the big opportunities and challenges?
Well, I think the challenge is going to continue to be the fact that things are changing. That's going to be your first challenge. And beyond that, I think what you are saying is the omni-channel commerce is something that I find a lot of businesses are having a difficult time with. Literally back in the 1990s, I still have my PowerPoint that I created, what I called multi-channel marketing at the time. And our tools were limited back then, but this has been an ongoing thing for the last 20 years. The issue now, though, is different. In other words, we have social media and we have a lot of social channels, and we have all these changes going on a constant basis. Your target audience keeps moving from one place to another. And so where I see the challenge to businesses is their inability to pivot on a dime. That's where we run into trouble. In other words, you have to make the changes. You don't necessarily have time to think, number one. The other thing that you don't have time to do is wait for proof to figure out if something's working or not. You just have to do it. And because the longer you wait, the less competitive you become and the less valuable your brand is in the marketplace, it's going to be forgotten very quickly. You just have to accept the changes, pivot with what's going on, especially in the omnicom world, omni-channel world, and just try to tackle all of them as best as you can. It may not be, ideal world per se, but you have to keep yourself relevant. And if you don't keep yourself relevant, you're going to run into trouble. That's where I see an issue with businesses in as far as where we're, what's coming up ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
And this process of trying to make those adjustments and to be relevant requires that, you're just going to do it. In some cases, you're not going to have a lot of time to plan things out. As a matter of fact, part of your plan should be, we're just going to make changes without thinking.
Right.
Look, I say that loosely. Let's face it. If you're in your business, you got your marketing agency working with you, you have all the tools that you need. It's not that you're going to be making changes without, some knowledge or experience. You're going to base it on some facts, but don't wait.
Yeah.
And I think that's the challenging part.
Yeah, I like your perspective. I think it's a very nuanced thing that people perhaps don't pick up on how profound your statement is. So if I go back to the beginning of my marketing career, everybody I learned marketing from, and I'm an old guy now, was about perfection. It was about perfection. It was about refining 10 words to the perfect copy, reshooting. I remember a cola brand. I won't name the cola brand, where we must have shot a can of cola, I don't know, maybe 10,000 times, because they wanted to perfect the beads of water dripping down the can, because that was the only way that they felt they could sell the idea of refreshment. And at the time, I was learning, I was young, and I was kind of amazed that a company would spend so much time on that. But at the same time, it seemed to go absolutely against everything that I was seeing in the digital world, which is the companies that were iterating and changing and moving and iterating and changing and moving were the ones that were constantly winning, and
I'm laughing
right?
with you because I remember those days, right? It's like every I has to be dotted, every T's got to be crossed. It's got to be, 100 and it's got to be 200%. Otherwise, there's no way that it was moving, there was any movement. And trying to get it to that level of quality or perfection was sometimes that's just not possible in today's world. You just have to pass all that.
No, so I think that will be, if someone were to try to encapsulate the big change in the digital era, is that trying to make advertising into an art form, the perfect sculpture, the perfect painting it gets admired when it happens. Even now, it definitely happens, and I admire it. It's a very difficult thing to do, but you're definitely not going to win the commerce game. So I look at those ads and I enjoy them. I call myself kind of like an advertising gym rat. I love great ads, but at the same time, man, that's not going to make you beat Amazon.
No,
I'll tell you that much.
Not at all. Not a chance. Not a chance.
So tell me, the last couple of years for clients have been really an interesting moment as they've had to face this challenge of the pandemic. How have you guys navigated that? And what lessons have you seen that we can take away from that?
Well, I'm going to take you back to 2008, 9, and 10 during the financial crisis. And you might remember, we're in the Detroit metro area. We're in Motor City. So, we were shoveling people out of Michigan back in those days. And, the big three automakers had to file for bankruptcy and, reorganizations and so on and so forth. And so we learned a lot from that financial crisis, something that I don't think anybody ever, expected, nor was anybody prepared for it. There was nothing that you could have read in college in some business class to make you figure this out. So at the same time, though, because of the clients that we work with and the name that we have in the metro area as well as in Michigan, we received this Michigan 50 Companies Award from the state of Michigan back in 2009. That opened up some doors in terms of resources. Mm-hmm. And let's fast forward to the pandemic and the beginning of 2020. We were better prepared for an economic crisis of some sort. Granted, this may not have been quite the same devastation as what we experienced back in 2009, but certainly I think we were prepared to understand what we needed to do. And so it just so happens that the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, the MEDC, started to have some programs for companies. And because as an award winner, we also qualified for some of their resources. What I mean by resources, not financial resources, as much as consultation resources. Mm-hmm. So when you're asking me, what did we do during this pandemic period? Because let's face it, there was a little bit of a downturn in business at the end of the day. We took the opportunity to revisit our brand. We revisit what we're doing. We looked at pivoting. I would say, I think pivoting became a cliche word in the last 2 years. But we took the opportunity to look at all these things and actually pivot. I think as the vaccine came out, everybody's being vaccinated, things are opening up. I think we're certainly better prepared as things opened up. As a matter of fact, about a year and a half ago, when this whole thing started, I was on a video cast in which I was speaking about what our business is doing to plan for when things open up.
Right.
In other words, you got to figure out what are you going to do, because you don't want to wait until things open and then decide to start spending money. You need to have your plan ready when the time comes. And so I feel comfortable that we achieved what we needed to do in the last year to utilize the consultative resources that were available to us from the state of Michigan through the Edward Lowe Foundation, the MEDC. We took a lot of steps internally to plan this out. And so we actually have a new website coming out, a new brand, new colors.
Well, I tell you, maybe next time, Melih, if you could just all tell us like the strategy and plan beforehand, but it's great to hear that. And I think that if I look at the range of solutions that you guys are offering, the future is very, very bright and needed. What you're offering is definitely what many, if not all, customers need these days. So, I mean, when you're looking forward over the next couple of years, what are the opportunities and challenges that you guys are tackling right now?
Well, one of the things I believe is going to reshape what we're doing is, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, but starting January, there's something called 3G sunset. Mm-hmm. In other words, the 2G and 3G platforms are being turned off. Okay. That's going to have a large impact, not so much on the consumers with the iPhones in their hands, as much as the 2G and 3G networks were used in business. For example, tracking trucks and where they're at, where your packages are. Some of those types of technologies were or perhaps might still be using the 2G and 3G technologies, but they're being turned off. And so we're moving into the 5G world. And the 5G world is going to change a lot of things relative to the fact that we have more speed and equally more bandwidth. Mm-hmm. And there's going to also be some security changes that are taking shape in the 5G world. That's going to have an impact on, it's a positive impact theoretically. In other words, you're going to be able to do more through mobile devices, through the mobile networks, as a business in terms of reaching out to your target audience, your customers, and how you interact with them. It's actually a good thing, but it's a change, and it's going to have an infrastructure that's going to require
it's
change.
Funny, people always forget that type of thing, which is the idea that when you replace something, we all focus on the 5G and we forget what came before and how that impacts. I was always amazed. I think it was when I looked at AOL's numbers back in the day, that even as of like 5 years ago, they were still making, I don't know, it must have, for some reason, I think it was like almost $20 million every month from dial up, from
Right,
the,
exactly. I
but
remember.
it was still enough clients out there that still were paying their monthly
Crazy.
dial-up subscriptions. So it is what it is. Anyways, Melih,
I
it's
agree.
been great talking with you. If someone wanted to learn more about what you and Smart Finds Marketing are up to, where should they find you?
Well, our website is smartfindsmarketing.com. So that's a good starting point. And like you had mentioned just a little bit ago, you'll find that, after 34 years, our competencies are broad, our experiences are broad, our knowledge is broad. But all of these experiences help to facilitate effective programs for our clients.
Excellent.
And outside of that, I would say, reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. It's a great B2B platform. My name is Melih Oztalay, and it's spelled Melih. And the last name is Oztalay, is Oztalay. I would say if you find me, there's only one person in the world that has my name, so you shouldn't have a difficult time finding me.
Yes, it's always good. That's when it's good to have a unique. Well, Melih, thank you so much for being on Uncaged today. Uncaged is a show that provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. We've been speaking to the CEO of Smart Finds Marketing, Melih Oztalay. Smart Finds Marketing is a digital marketing agency with over 20 years experience partnering national and global companies. We've been speaking about all the work they've been doing, really helping companies make that digital step more efficient and effective. And Melih, thanks so much for being on the show, and I look forward to
Very
having you
much,
back.
man. Sounds good.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.